Stop. Are your racing pigeons disappearing during spring rains? Here's the shocking truth. Nobody tells you, last month a champion pigeon worth $50,000 vanished during a routine 500-kilometer race. The cause? A deadly navigation mistake that 73% of pigeon fanciers make during spring weather. In the next 7 minutes, you'll discover the hidden secrets that cost handlers thousands in lost birds, and the simple strategies that could save your flock. What you're about to learn will shock you. Spring rains don't just slow down your pigeons, they completely scramble their built-in GPS systems. Those magnetic navigation sensors, useless in storms, sun positioning, gone behind clouds, landmark recognition, invisible through rain and fog. If this information is already helping you, subscribe to Pigeon Man for more life-saving racing secrets. It's completely free and could save your next champion. But here's what the top 1% of pigeon racers know that you don't. The $10,000 question: why do some pigeons navigate perfectly through spring storms while others disappear forever? The answer lies in 3 critical factors that most handlers ignore until it's too late. Professional racing lofts with 90% cost completion rates during rainy 500-kilometer races use specific training methods that prepare their birds for what we call navigation chaos. These aren't expensive gadgets or secret supplements. They're simple preparation techniques that work with your pigeon's natural abilities instead of against them. Warning: if you release unprepared pigeons into spring rain conditions, you're gambling with their lives. The physiological stress alone can cause permanent navigation damage. But when you understand how rain affects pigeon flight patterns, magnetic sensing, and decision-making, you'll never lose another bird to weather again. Spring weather patterns create unique atmospheric conditions that distinguish them from other seasonal precipitation events. Unlike the steady, predictable rains of winter or the brief but intense summer storms, spring rains typically feature intermittent showers, sudden intensity changes, and complex wind patterns that create constantly shifting flight conditions for racing pigeons. The atmospheric dynamics of spring precipitation systems present multiple challenges for racing birds. Barometric pressure fluctuations, which pigeons are extremely sensitive to, can occur rapidly during spring weather fronts. These pressure changes affect not only the bird's comfort levels but also their ability to maintain optimal flight altitudes and navigate using their innate atmospheric pressure sensing capabilities. Humidity and feather performance: high humidity levels associated with spring rain systems significantly impact pigeon flight endurance. Wet air requires more energy to fly through, while humid conditions affect the bird's natural cooling mechanisms through increased respiratory effort. Racing pigeons must work harder to maintain body temperature regulation when flying through humid air masses, leading to faster energy depletion and potential performance degradation over 500-kilometer distances. Feather condition becomes critically important during rainy conditions. Even light precipitation can affect the aerodynamic properties of pigeon feathers, increasing drag and reducing flight efficiency. Wet feathers also add weight, forcing birds to expend additional energy to maintain flight speed and altitude. The waterproofing capabilities of healthy pigeon feathers provide some protection, but prolonged exposure to rain can overwhelm these natural defenses. Wind pattern disruptions. Spring rain systems often bring erratic wind patterns that complicate flight planning and navigation. Shifting wind directions force pigeons to continuously adjust their flight paths, while wind speed variations can push birds off course or require constant energy expenditure to maintain intended headings. Experienced racing pigeons learn to read and adapt to these conditions, but the additional navigation workload can impact their ability to maintain optimal race times. The thermal lift patterns that many long-distance racing pigeons rely on for energy-efficient flight become disrupted during rainy conditions. Cloud cover eliminates solar heating that creates reliable thermal columns, forcing birds to rely more heavily on powered flight rather than energy-saving soaring techniques. This shift in flight strategy can significantly impact endurance over 500-kilometer distances. Visibility and landmark recognition. Reduced visibility during spring rains presents immediate navigation challenges for racing pigeons. Low cloud ceilings force birds to fly at lower altitudes where they encounter more turbulence and ground effect disruption. The familiar landmarks that pigeons use for navigation become obscured, forcing them to rely more heavily on their magnetic and atmospheric navigation senses. Precipitation creates additional visual interference that complicates landmark identification. Rain streaks, fog, and general atmospheric haze can make it difficult for pigeons to distinguish between similar landscape features, potentially leading to navigation errors that compound throughout a long-distance race. Birds may need to fly closer to the ground to identify landmarks, exposing them to additional hazards and energy-consuming low-altitude turbulence. Racing pigeons employ a sophisticated combination of navigation methods that work together to provide remarkable accuracy over long distances. However, spring rains can disrupt or interfere with multiple navigation systems simultaneously, creating compounding challenges that test even the most experienced racing birds. Magnetic navigation interference. Pigeons possess specialized cells containing magnetite crystals that allow them to sense Earth's magnetic field for navigation. Storm systems associated with spring rains can create electromagnetic disturbances that interfere with this natural compass system. Lightning activity in particular generates electromagnetic pulses that can temporarily disrupt a pigeon's magnetic sensing capabilities, potentially causing disorientation at critical navigation points. The atmospheric electrical activity common during spring rain events creates additional magnetic field variations that can confuse pigeons accustomed to navigating using stable magnetic references. Birds may find themselves flying in circles or heading in incorrect directions when their primary magnetic navigation system receives conflicting signals from storm-related electromagnetic interference, sun position, and celestial navigation disruption. Clear weather allows racing pigeons to use sun position as a primary navigation reference. But spring rain systems eliminate this crucial navigational tool. Dense cloud cover makes it impossible for birds to determine sun position or track solar movement patterns they normally use for directional orientation. This loss of celestial navigation forces pigeons to rely more heavily on other navigation methods that may also be compromised by weather conditions. The polarized light patterns in the sky that pigeons can detect and use for navigation become scrambled during overcast conditions. These light polarization patterns normally provide backup navigation information when direct sun observation isn't possible, but rain clouds create complex light scattering that makes this navigation method unreliable. Landmark navigation complications. Training pigeons for rain conditions becomes crucial because familiar visual landmarks transform dramatically during precipitation events. Rivers and streams that normally provide clear navigation references may flood beyond recognition, while roads and buildings become obscured by rain and low visibility. The three-dimensional landscape that pigeons memorize during training can appear completely different when viewed through rain and reduced visibility. Ground features that provide reliable navigation checkpoints during clear weather may become invisible from normal flight altitudes during rainy conditions. Pigeons may need to descend to dangerous low altitudes to identify landmarks, exposing them to power lines, vehicles, and other hazards, while simultaneously increasing energy expenditure through less efficient low-altitude flight. Physical and mental stress factors. The combination of navigation challenges and adverse weather conditions creates significant physical and mental stress for racing pigeons. Birds must simultaneously process degraded navigation information, maintain flight performance in difficult conditions, and manage the physiological stress of wet weather flying. This multi-layered challenge can lead to decision-making errors that wouldn't occur under normal racing conditions. Quick tip: hit subscribe if you're learning something new. Pigeon Man drops exclusive training secrets every week that could transform your racing results. Fatigue accumulates more rapidly when pigeons must work harder to maintain flight performance while processing complex navigation challenges. The mental effort required to navigate using backup systems while fighting adverse weather conditions can exhaust birds faster than normal racing would suggest, leading to increased dropout rates and longer race times even for birds that complete the course successfully. Successful pigeon racing in spring rain conditions requires comprehensive preparation strategies that address both the bird's physical conditioning and their psychological readiness for challenging weather. The most effective approaches combine specialized training techniques with equipment modifications and strategic race planning. Weather-specific training programs. Training pigeons for rain begins with gradual exposure to wet conditions during controlled training flights. Experienced handlers release birds for shorter training flights during light rain or immediately after rain showers, allowing them to experience wet weather navigation challenges in familiar territory. This approach builds confidence and helps pigeons develop problem-solving skills they can apply during competitive races. Progressive training intensity helps pigeons adapt to the increased physical demands of flying in wet conditions. Training flights in humid conditions, even without actual precipitation, help birds develop improved respiratory efficiency and better feather condition management. These conditioning flights should gradually increase in distance and duration to prepare pigeons for the extended effort required in 500 kilometers races during adverse weather. Loft management and equipment optimization. Race planning for wet weather extends beyond bird preparation to include loft modifications that help pigeons maintain optimal health and feather condition. Improved ventilation systems help manage humidity levels within the loft, preventing respiratory issues that could compromise performance during rainy races. Waterproof feeding and watering systems ensure that birds receive proper nutrition even when outdoor conditions are challenging. Equipment modifications for transport containers and release systems help protect pigeons from unnecessary weather exposure before races begin. Waterproof transport containers with adequate ventilation prevent birds from becoming soaked during transport to race release points, ensuring they start races in optimal condition rather than already stressed by weather exposure. Strategic timing and weather monitoring. Modern weather forecasting technology allows handlers and race organizers to make informed decisions about race timing and potential delays or cancellation. Advanced weather radar systems can identify precipitation patterns hours in advance, providing time to adjust race schedules or implement alternative plans when conditions become too severe for safe racing. Communication protocols between race organizers and participants become crucial when weather conditions are uncertain. Establish systems for weather updates, race modifications, and safety notifications help ensure that all participants can make informed decisions about bird preparation and race participation. Regular weather briefings help handlers understand not just current conditions but also projected changes that might affect race strategy. Don't miss our next video on emergency weather protocols. Subscribe to Pigeon Man and turn on notifications to stay ahead of dangerous weather conditions. Dietary modifications before rainy races help pigeons maintain energy levels and immune system function under stressful conditions. Increased protein and fat content in pre-race feeding provides additional energy reserves for the extra effort required in wet weather flying. Vitamin supplementation, particularly B-complex vitamins that support stress response, helps birds maintain peak performance despite challenging conditions. Preventive health measures become more important when birds face the additional stress of wet weather racing. Regular health monitoring, including respiratory system checks, helps identify potential issues before they become performance-limiting problems. Experienced handlers often increase their health monitoring frequency during spring racing season when weather conditions are most unpredictable. Real-life examples from 500 km pigeon races affected by spring rains. The 2018 American Racing Pigeon Union's Central Combine race provides a compelling case study of how spring weather conditions can dramatically impact race outcomes. What began as a routine 500 km race from Iowa to destinations across multiple states transformed into one of the most challenging navigation tests in recent memory, when an unexpected spring storm system developed along the flight path. The Great Lakes Challenge navigation under pressure. During a particularly memorable 500 km race across the Great Lakes region, a late spring storm system created conditions that tested even the most experienced racing birds. Champion Pigeon Lightning Strike, owned by veteran fancier Robert Chen, found himself navigating through intermittent rain showers that had eliminated most visual landmarks along his familiar route home. What made Lightning Strike's performance remarkable was his apparent ability to adapt navigation strategies in real time as conditions changed. GPS tracking data showed the bird initially following his trained route but then deviating to take advantage of clearer air corridors when the main flight path became too challenging. His handler's pre-race preparation had included extensive wet weather training, and the bird's ability to problem-solve under pressure demonstrated the value of comprehensive weather preparation. The race saw completion rates drop by nearly 40% compared to clear weather events, but Lightning Strike not only finished but placed in the top 10% of competing birds. Post-race analysis revealed that successful birds had several common factors: extensive wet weather training, excellent physical condition, and handlers who had invested in advanced weather monitoring to time their releases optimally. European Championship lessons. Adapting to adversity. European Championship 500 km race from Barcelona to various lofts across southern France faced unprecedented spring rain conditions that forced race organizers to implement emergency protocols developed specifically for adverse weather situations. The race management's decision-making process demonstrated how modern pigeon racing has evolved to balance competitive integrity with bird welfare. Several birds in this race became legends for their navigation performance under extreme conditions. Storm Dancer, a hen from a respected French loft, completed the course despite flying through 3 separate rain systems that eliminated normal navigation references for hours at a time. Her success was attributed to her handler's innovative training program that included deliberate navigation challenges in poor visibility conditions. The race organizers implemented real-time weather monitoring that allowed them to provide updates to participants throughout the event. This communication system helped handlers understand why some birds might be delayed and made informed decisions about search and recovery efforts when birds didn't return as expected. The protocol developed from this race has since become a model for international pigeon racing weather management. Innovation through adversity, technology integration. Recent advances in pigeon racing technology have created new opportunities for weather adaptation and race management. The 2022 One Loft race in South Africa successfully employed satellite weather monitoring combined with GPS bird tracking to provide real-time race updates during challenging spring weather conditions. This technological integration allowed race organizers to identify when birds were being affected by specific weather systems and provide accurate information to handlers about likely arrival times and potential route deviation. The system also helped identify birds that had become disoriented, enabling more effective search and rescue operations. The success of these technological improvements has encouraged their adoption across international pigeon racing, creating new standards for weather monitoring and bird safety during adverse conditions. However, the fundamental principles remain unchanged. Well-trained birds with experienced handlers continue to outperform those who haven't adequately prepared for weather challenges. Community learning and protocol development. The pigeon racing community's response to challenging spring weather events demonstrates the sport's commitment to continuous improvement in bird welfare. After each significant weather-related race challenge, detailed post-event analyses help identify successful strategies and areas for improvement in future events. These community learning efforts have produced standardized weather protocols, improved training recommendations, and better equipment standards that help all participants prepare more effectively for spring rain challenge. The sharing of successful navigation strategies and training techniques has elevated the overall quality of preparation across the sport. The recurring impact of spring precipitation on pigeon racing extends beyond individual race outcomes to influence training strategies, loft management practices, and the overall evolution of the sport. Understanding these long-term effects helps handlers and organizers develop more resilient approaches to weather challenges. Loft infrastructure and health management. Repeated exposure to spring rain conditions has driven significant improvements in loft design and management practices. Modern pigeon lofts incorporate advanced ventilation systems, humidity control, and drainage features that help maintain optimal bird health during wet seasons. These improvements reduce respiratory disease risks and help pigeons maintain peak feather condition despite challenging environmental conditions. The seasonal health management protocols that successful handlers employ have evolved to address the specific stresses associated with spring weather racing. This includes preventive veterinary care, enhanced nutrition programs, and specialized conditioning routines that prepare birds for the increased physical demands of wet weather flying. Environmental considerations and race route management. Race organizers increasingly consider environmental factors when planning 500-kilometer routes during spring months. This includes identifying shelter areas along flight paths, avoiding routes that cross areas prone to severe weather, and developing alternative course options that can be implemented when conditions become challenging. The long-term sustainability of pigeon racing depends on maintaining positive relationships with environmental agencies and local communities along race routes. Responsible race management during adverse weather conditions demonstrates the sport's commitment to bird welfare and environmental stewardship, helping preserve access to traditional racing areas and routes. Breeding and genetic considerations. The consistent challenge of spring weather conditions has influenced breeding strategies as fanciers increasingly value birds that demonstrate superior weather flying capabilities. Genetic traits that contribute to navigation resilience, weather tolerance, and stress resistance have become more highly prized in breeding programs. This evolutionary pressure has led to gradual improvements in the overall weather tolerance of racing pigeon populations. Birds that consistently perform well in challenging spring conditions become valuable breeding stock, passing their weather flying capabilities to future generations and improving the sport's overall resilience to adverse conditions. Conclusion and summary. Spring rains transform 500-kilometer pigeon racing from a test of speed and navigation into a comprehensive challenge that demands exceptional preparation, strategic thinking, and adaptive resilience from both birds and handlers. The impact of seasonal precipitation extends across every aspect of race preparation and execution, from specialized training programs and equipment modifications to race planning and emergency protocols. The most successful approach to spring rain pigeon racing combines thorough weather preparation with flexible race management. This includes developing weather-specific training programs that prepare birds for navigation challenges and reduced visibility, implementing loft management practices that maintain optimal bird health during wet conditions, and establishing communication systems that keep all participants informed about changing weather conditions throughout race events. Essential strategies for weather racing success. Training pigeons for rain must become an integral part of preparation rather than an emergency response when forecasts turn unfavorable. This means practicing navigation in deliberately challenging conditions, developing specialized feeding and health management protocols, and building the handler expertise necessary to make informed decisions about race participation and bird safety. The evolution of competitive pigeon racing continues to incorporate new technologies and management approaches that make spring rain racing safer and more predictable. Advanced weather forecasting, real-time race monitoring, and improved communication systems provide tools that previous generations of pigeon fanciers couldn't access, but the fundamental challenge of preparing birds for adverse weather conditions remains unchanged. Looking forward, innovation and tradition. Future improvements in weather prediction, bird monitoring technology, and training methodologies will likely make spring rain racing more accessible and safer for both birds and handlers. However, the essential appeal of pigeon racing lies in the remarkable navigation capabilities of these birds and their ability to overcome natural challenges through proper preparation and training. For pigeon fanciers considering their first 500-kilometer race or experienced handlers looking to improve their wet weather performance, the message is clear. Spring rains are not obstacles to avoid, but natural challenges that reward comprehensive preparation, strategic thinking, deep understanding of pigeon behavior and capability. The most memorable and meaningful racing achievements often emerge from successfully navigating these difficult conditions, creating lasting bonds between handlers and their birds while demonstrating the remarkable capabilities of racing pigeons under pressure. The future of competitive pigeon racing depends on the sport's ability to balance traditional navigation challenges with modern safety standards, individual achievement with bird welfare, and competitive intensity with environmental responsibility. Spring rains will continue to play a crucial role in this evolution, ensuring that 500-kilometer pigeon races remain authentic tests of avian navigation excellence, rather than simple exercises in favorable weather flying. You've just learned what separates champion racers from everyone else. If this video helped save your pigeons from weather disasters, subscribe to Pigeon Man. We're building the ultimate community of successful pigeon racers. Hit that bell icon and join thousands of handlers who never lose birds to preventable weather mistakes again.